How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, hell yes! My God, you guys are great. Keep that shit up. Oh,
You're not supposed to swear, dude.
Oops.
Alors, toute cette présentation-là va être donnée en français.
We're doing the whole thing in French, is what he just said.
So good luck. Hold on.
Shout out to the guy in the Montreal Expos cap.
Is there one? Yeah. Oh yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. Cool. So how about this new game, Elias?
What? What game?
Oh, that
Which
game
one
we're
are you
here to
talking
talk about. So yeah, we're going to talk about Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. These guys are great. This crowd is amazing.
Proud.
My name is Mike Footer. I am the news editor at Game Informer. You are not here to see me, which is why I am pleased to introduce three people who you are here to see. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves because they're cool. Elias?
We are cool. My name is Elias Toufexis. I'm the actor who plays this guy, Adam Jensen.
Chibi Adam.
And my name is Jean-François Dugas. I'm the game director on Deus Ex, Mankind Divided.
My name is Jonathan Jacques-Belletête, and I'm the executive art director on the franchise and on the game as well.
Yeah.
So you've had a chance to see the game in action. What I believe we're going to have up on the screen is some art. Is that correct?
I think so.
Oh, look at that.
There we go.
Dubai.
This is Dubai.
So I had the opportunity to see the game, see a different section of the game yesterday, and it looks unbelievable. It's just coming together so well. And one of the areas that we had a chance to see was your take on Dubai, and obviously this is different than we know the city today.
Yeah, things have happened.
Things have happened. So where do we come into Dubai? What is the story around where we see this?
Well, Dubai is the beginning of the game. Like John said in the demo, it's 2 years after the events of Human Revolution. And now we're picking up where Adam Jensen is part of a task force, a counter-terrorist unit that is trying to bring some peace in the world. So this first mission, it's really like they're onto some intel that some people are smuggling weapons for a terrorist group, and they go to storm this place to try to take the culprits while they're dealing their weapons and their augmentations. And basically, in this first map, Adam Jensen now he has all his power. So you start right away. You're super powerful. Like you have a lot of augmentations and everything. And without going in too much details, something's going to happen a little bit later on, and you're going to have to customize your character again because Adam is not lucky. He's always something happens to him. So
Stuff happens all the time, right?
Stuff happens to him.
Things he doesn't ask for.
That's it.
I don't get that joke.
So we're going to see Adam in his new role. What is the new fantasy being this agent, but also he has a double agenda. Like he's in this task force, not only because he wants to bring some peace to the world, but also because, like John was talking about the Illuminati, the men and women in the shadows that are steering society in a direction or another, he's trying to get at them. And he has some information that makes him believe that through the task force he can get to them. So basically he's playing on two levels at the same time. And also I want to mention that I said it's 2 years after Human Revolution, so there will be a new book by James Swallow, the writer who wrote Icarus Effect and Fallen Angel, and is going to tell a new story that happens between the two games. So you're going to be have a little bit more context and everything. Even though there will be a lot of context in the game, a lot of the events will be told through that book.
And the book is published by Titan Publishing. And also, so there's going to be this novel, and there's going to be comic books as well. So there's going to be 5 issues of a Deus Ex universe comic books with, again, kind of stories that happen.
It's going to tell the story, the first mission of Adam Jensen in the task force, and meet all the characters and everything. So it should be really, really interesting and have a global picture with all those products together.
And
So-
an art book.
An art book.
A big art book by Titan Publishing. Massive,
Triangle.
with tons of triangles in it.
And if you give me your phone number, I'll call you and read it to you.
For free.
For free, yeah.
Screw
Half the
raising my
audience is
kids.
going to take you up on it, and the other half, once they realize the first half is going to take you up on it.
And speaking of art, speaking of the art book, the thing that's cool about Dubai, what you're going to see in the game, it's the interesting thing about this city, it's that it's already kind of a, not a cyberpunk city, but there's a lot of futurism in the city. Like some of the architecture is really crazy, kind of really out there, so it kind of matches with the game. And they're in a weird position where they're constantly fighting against the ocean, they're constantly fighting against the sand at the desert at the same time. They both kind of want to eat the city, and there's a lot of technology that they use to push this back. And because of the events that happened, these things might not work as well anymore. So these are things that you're going to see in the visuals and in the game. You see, there's a sandstorm coming in. It's also a place where a lot of the augmented people worked, right? Because they need a workforce to build all the crazy stuff of Dubai. So a lot of the augmented were there. The augmented people also in the golden age of augmentations, right? In 2027 and before, they were the rich people. So a lot of them lived in this city. So you might visually see a lot of interesting cues that are kind of like show, don't tell of these events, of the fact that these people live there and that they don't anymore, and what happened to them.
It's kind of a metaphor for the golden age of augmentation is over kind of thing, and we're switching into a new era.
We open with all these metaphors and allegories in the game.
And there's a couple of things that you said as you were narrating the demo. You talked about the mechanical apartheid, and you talked about how there's this tension that's emerged between augmented people and natural humans, I guess. And in the demo that I saw yesterday, that emerges even right from the beginning because Adam Jensen is the only person on the task force who is augmented. Mm-hmm. And you see some of that tension right off the bat. And Elias, can you talk a little bit about Adam's character and how that's changed him a little bit and how his relationships work with on the task force?
Sure, that's one of my favorite parts of the new story for this game is that Adam is conflicted. More than anything, more than the last game, because in the last game, I mean, you got the augmentations, and whether he asked for it or not, it was cool, and he got to do all sorts of cool things. But now the world has shunned augmented people to a degree that Adam is torn because he wants to do what's right, but half of the world is now put into camps because of what happened at the end of the last game. I'm sure you guys remember, and there's there's like drinking fountains for augmented people and bathrooms for augmented people. They're completely separated. But Adam is one of them, but he's working for a task force, working for a task force without giving anything away. He's working for a task force that doesn't have any augmented people. And I don't know if we even actually talked about this in the game, but I definitely played it. It's the fact that Adam on his own, when he's fully dressed, he doesn't really look augmented. He's not.
There's a few little signs, but
there's a few little signs,
not
right? But he doesn't
really
have
overt,
it's not overt. So he can, in sort of a way, blend in to a degree. But when he sees these poor people that are, for all intents and purposes, brothers and sisters to him, whether he likes it or not, the empathy that he feels for them is one of my favorite things about this character now.
But what's cool as well is that they might not have the same empathy towards him in Mankind Divided. I think that's like Jeff says often. It's he's a stranger in a strange land on both sides of the fence. Because when he's where there's not supposed to be any augmented people, or where augmented people are not liked or whatever. Well, he's not liked when he's there. Yeah. And when he's with the augmented people in the ghettos, these people don't have enough neuropazine for their augmentations. Their augmentations might be in very bad conditions, whatever. And Adam is all there, all shiny with crazy, super good augmentations. So they even judge him in there. So he's it kind of sucks on both sides for him.
The world doesn't want him anymore.
No.
Can we? There was the Golem City. We saw that in the demo just now, and. There was a segment of that where we saw some of the augmented residents there getting rousted by security guards, which kind of comes back to that whole mechanical apartheid thing. Can you talk a little bit about about how that influences the social aspect, a little bit more about the social aspect, and how Adam has to operate kind of in those camps and how that's reflected in the art too.
Well, for the segregation aspect, I think what was important for us, like when we were working on Human Revolution, we wanted to explore all the benefits, all the potential benefits of augmentations. We were kind of hinting at the dangers and everything, but we were more on the positive side of things. But we always had the underlying question in which, like, what if someone does something really, really bad with those new abilities and those new possibilities? And Mankind Divided actually was the time to really explore the other side of the coin, where, like, if things go south, like, how society is going to react. And for us, what was interesting, it was to explore those polarizing views in which sometimes something happens and people can be quick to judge and say that it's all bad or it's all good, there's no nuances and everything, and we're trying to explore those things. So for us, the segregation, unfortunately, even today in 2015, it's still really like of actuality, like it's something that we still need to talk about when you look at everything that goes in the world. And for us, like through that world, through that transhumanism, we really wanted to explore that kind of like opposition between people who don't understand each other and everything. And that's why, like John and Elias said about it, it's like when you go in certain places, like when you're in Prague, it's not necessarily being people like jumping on you or attacking you, but it's going to be more subversive, more like kind of like the comments, the looks, like the comments that are misplaced or things like that. So it's more kind of an underlying pressure that is constant. And when they're the people of Prague, they're demonizing people of Golem because they're mostly augmented people. And when you get to Golem, like you see those people, they're suffering, they don't have good conditions of life and everything. And the people who are called terrorists and that live in there, like actually they're trying to fight for their own kind. So there's always kind of two sides of a same coin, and we're trying to explore it on one side, when you don't understand, you demonize, and if you have the chance to explore all the angles of the subject, you discover that it's much more nuanced than black and white kind of thing. So
and also someone's terrorist is always someone else's
exactly.
kind of freedom fighter, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's really like the bulk of what we're trying to achieve with those visits and those cities, and try to put the players in the middle of that and make his own mind about what's right, what's wrong, etc.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about playing Adam this time around, is the people he meets, where you are looking at them and you can throw your own kind of judgment on them, and then you realize they all have their reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. And I had to record or shoot almost every possible outcome of that. So it really is up to you how you treat these people, which is one of my favorite things about playing this guy this time.
Is it why your voice sounds like this? Because he had to record all the possible outcomes?
It's talking for 6 years constantly, and also so much vodka. This is vodka.
and also visually speaking, all the stuff that Elias and Jeff just mentioned, that we have to kind of give life to that. Also visually speaking, it's not just in the story and in what the NPCs are saying and whatnot. And I think I had the easiest part. Our team had the easiest part in a way of that, because sadly, segregation and racism and ignorance and misunderstanding and all that stuff seems to be a staple of humanity at any time in our history. So just looking at the references of how we've been treating each other through time, the traces of these things are everywhere. So it was just about looking at it. If you look at the segregation of the 60s here in the United States and the 50s and whatnot. It was kind of like taking some of these things and just kind of transposing them to a transhumanist world, where they're having this big conflict and dilemmas between the naturals and the augmented. So making all these panels, all these signs of like restaurants where it's like, augmented people can only eat in the back, or they're not admitted at all. The propaganda as well, and on both sides was I think it was somehow easier than what they had to do, because it's not as subtle as the writing. It's bam, it's right in your face, right? Like in the airport, this is where the augmented go, this is where the non-augmented go, all that kind of stuff.
And the black and gold like is still there, but now we have corporate feudalism to show the clash between.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, because obviously, yeah, there is actually more. It's a good point, Jeff. There's also more subtle things that we're using, visually speaking, to kind of separate and show the two sides. So in Human Revolution, it was all about the golden era, right? The Enlightenment era of transhumanism, and hence the black and gold, and representing the sun and representing all this, again, the golden era. This is finished now. This has ended, and it's now what has taken its place is the corporate feudalism. So it's almost like it's a step back, right? If the Renaissance happened after the medieval era, and now this time around, it's almost we're stepping back into the Dark Ages, kind of like the spirit of ignorance and of fear. So a lot of the architecture is based on brutalism, which is, like a real architecture movement. And everything looks like fortresses and fortifications, and everything is desaturated, everything is concrete, and all that kind of stuff. So this becomes very, very present. And again, it's kind of it's showing this new world order, if you want, that it's not about being augmented anymore. It's not that. It's quite the opposite, and they're fighting against that. So yeah.
And one of the things that I loved about Human Revolution, and that you said, when we were talking yesterday, is obviously coming back for Mankind Divided, is the world building that's done in the social aspect, and how the story is uncovered through investigation. And part of that, is when Adam gets to Prague, he's in the middle of an investigation. And, JF, can you talk a little bit?
Well, I can talk a little bit about it, but not too much, because I don't.
Of course,
want
don't
to
spoil anything. They
Come
won't get
on,
mad.
JF. Tell us.
Yeah, so Adam Jensen, probably if you've seen a little bit of the E3 demo, like when there's a kind of a walk and talk, and Adam Jensen is talking with a girl called Alex Vega, and then there's a big explosion. Like they're in the middle of a train station where it's being bombed. Actually, the big quest. This is where it starts. This is where they start on this journey to find who are the people behind it. And as you go through that journey, you discover that the responsible people might not be exactly the ones you think they should be. Like some people may want you to think that it's someone else, someone instead of someone else, etc. So it gets kind of not complex but layered, in which you have to figure out who you trust or who you don't trust. And I'm staying very, very vague right now because I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm trying to answer without.
You like trying to in real time to figure out how to stay vague, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the story of a dude, then he moves forward, and that's it.
The guy does some things, goes home.
But yeah, so it's going to be a big investigation. So on the first degree, it's going to be this terrorist investigation. But you'll understand that there's more, and the personal quest of Adam Jensen also is going to take more place into this, and you're going to discover something that is much bigger than what you just see with your very eyes. So it goes beyond, and that's going to be a quest to discover what is the real conspiracy and what the people in the shadows are really trying to achieve, and it might not be what you think it is. So.
Those shadow people.
Those shadow people, yeah.
By the way, this is
Always up to
fiction. The
something.
Illuminati is fiction, by the way, right? You guys are aware of that. It's just they don't exist in real life.
It's a joke.
Yeah, it's kind of a joke, yeah.
And in terms of, Prague looks very different than Dubai and Golem City. What is the artistic motif in Prague? What's going on in Prague, and how is that reflected in what players will see?
Well, the great thing about Prague, I think one of the main staples of cyberpunk is the clash between the old and the new, right? Because cyberpunk is never 3,000 years in the future, or even 200 years in the future. It's always a very near future. So cyberpunk literature is 15, 20, maybe 50 years in the future type of thing. So the world needs to look very much like what it looks like contemporarily speaking, and it has all those add-ons, right? All those kind of the new tech and all the cyberpunk stuff. the great thing about Prague is that this contrast is even starker, is so much more present because Prague is a medieval city, right? It's already a city that looks so old. So the minute that we started kind of putting all these futuristic or modern-looking architecture stuff and buildings and the cars and the little kind of sci-fi add-ons that I like to call, it just started creating something very, very special, right? And also the brutalist architecture, like I spoke before, that I mentioned before, also clashes enormously with the little kind of houses that are centuries old around the city of Prague. So there's that. And of course, that represents a lot the corporate feudalism and whatnot. And the great thing is when we did Human Revolution, when you're in a city like Hengsha, for example, or Shanghai, there are already cities that it looks like Blade Runner already when you go there. Right? We went to Shanghai for the game when we did Human Revolution. I went to Hong Kong just on a personal vacation traveling. They look like science fiction cities already. So having this kind of cyberpunk thing was a different challenge. It was how do we make it our own, because the place already looks like it's where we want to bring the game. But with Prague, it was a whole different kind of thing, because that juxtaposition is so much stronger. Yeah.
And I think it's worth reminding people that Human Revolution, these areas were big. There was a lot to explore there. So obviously, there's the investigation, there's the critical path, there's the main thread, but a lot of the world building is also done through those side missions and getting to know Adam and your version of Adam and how he reacts to certain situations. And how is that being expressed, Elias, this time out, in terms of it, and not just in Prague, and not being specific, of course, because we don't want to spoil.
I would just say do all the side missions you can do, because it's funny, you could meet a character in a side mission and then not realize much later he or she's going to help you do something if you help them, or sometimes you can turn your back on a character and then much later you really could have used that character's help. And I can't imagine playing the game straight through without doing a side mission, because you're going to miss a lot. I mean, you can.
And you make the developers really, really sad.
And you make the developers sad. And God, I recorded so much and shot so much. Could you?
Because that's
could
what
you
we
do the
spend
damn
most of
side
our
missions?
time on. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, you meet so many interesting characters on the side missions that don't directly influence the story, but they directly influence his character, and they influence Jensen in the way, at least in my mind, in the way he looks at the world. There are a bunch of side missions that we did that could change your mind about a certain type of augmented population or a certain type of somebody who's anti-augment. So I would say, yeah, try to do as many as you can. But even in the side missions, there's like mini side missions for the side missions.
Well, actually, the way it is that a little bit like Human Revolution, we wanted them to be within the theme, so we're exploring the mechanical apartheid.
You mean there's no rats in a cellar that you need to go kill?
No, not so much. Can be fun, but not this time. The side mission, the way we build them this time around, they're more fleshed out than they were in Human Revolution, in the sense that depending on how you play, and like Elias said, like how you decide to invest and explore your character through them, you might end up with having a very short quest that can be very simple and explore the theme on the surface. And depending on how you play, you might end up, instead of having a 10-minute story, you can get into an hour story that goes much deeper and then much more layered stuff that really allow you to explore the theme. So it's really, this time around, like your choices, the way you play, it's going to really, really affect like what you're going to discover or what you're going to miss totally.
And also affect the endings, right?
Yeah, and the replay value is going to be amazing, because even what we've recorded, right? It's what I think about going through the game and going, wait, if I didn't make this choice, I would never even have met this character. And then I think, man, you got to go back and replay the whole
So Elias is going to have a tip line.
Yeah. No, just, again, give me your phone numbers and I'll call you.
It's the same number as for reading the story. It's just a different
It's the same number
option.
as the storyline.
Yeah.
So if you want to ask him questions when the game comes out, you'll be able to do that. But if you want to ask questions right now, go ahead and line up at the microphones. We'll be glad to take some questions. we have one microphone, just so I'm not looking at like one random spot. Okay, we have one microphone.
Should I stand?
Sir, is it on? Scream into it. I love it when you do
yeah,
that.
I'm too tall. I'm sorry.
Can you say your name and where you're from? It's always interesting.
Yeah, my name's Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, I just
From
saw
New
you.
Jersey. I just saw you. How's it going? My question was, and this goes with Human Revolution as well, is your decision to employ more use of the third-person camera angle. I know the first two games, you were always in first person except for cutscenes where it was third person. Some argue that by constantly switching to third person, it kind of takes you out of the game or is kind of disorienting. So I was curious about your personal idea of this.
Right. Well, for me, it's a question of philosophy, not philosophy, but it's a question of what you're trying to achieve. What I mean by that, like, for me, it's not. I don't believe one is better over the other. It's that it depends what you're trying to achieve. Like, if you're just trying to have an avatar and just be put in the world and it's you and that's it, I think full first person makes a lot of sense. With Human Revolution, when we started that, we knew early on that we wanted to have a main character that is strong, that he has a personality, that he has a story and everything.
Make him iconic.
Yes, and we wanted also to make sure that transhumanism was our main theme. And we didn't want just the game that tells you it's the main theme. We wanted you to see your characters with his augmentations, see the way he is. Like, so on the subconscious level, since he's on screen very often, it stays with you. You see that this guy has this uncanny arms or this thing on the head or things like that. So it was more like for us a way to tell a story, to explore the theme, to make it obvious for you. But also we wanted on the from a first degree standpoint, when you use augmentations, we wanted you to feel like, oh my God, that's cool. Like it's constantly in your face. So those were the reasons. But to me, like, it's not that...
There's no right or wrong with that.
No, there's no right or wrong. And maybe I would work on another game and I would never do third person. But for that, there's a meaning to it. Yeah. And some people like it, some people don't. But that's okay.
How about you? Do you like it? Or you can be honest.
You know, sorry.
Oh,
I guess you didn't like
joking.
it.
Don't scream into the mic.
I remember a Warren Spector actually talking about saying how he kind of disagreed with you guys about the third person.
What does he know?
No, I think it's kind of cool, but I mean, I guess I kind of prefer to keep it first person, mostly because like a whole line of sight idea, basically when you're in third person, you can notice more around you, so it's more challenging if it's
Hey, the more third person, the more performance capture work I get. So let's keep it with the
that
third
too,
person.
Yeah. Basically, we're just putting Elias's kids in school.
Thank you so much.
Thank
By
you.
the way, I just
Appreciate
noticed
it.
your maiden shirt, and that's awesome.
Thank you.
And the Vault Dweller behind you. Nice costume, man.
Thank you very much.
I like the
Appreciate it.
gun.
My question is, I remember you guys talked about the encroaching sand versus the encroaching water. Will that affect gameplay as far as like, do you have like live weather patterns, and will that actually affect gameplay more than just like pretty graphics?
Well, the sandstorm thing, depending on how you play, yes, it's going to have some sort of effect. It will, you might witness it, you might miss it totally, and depending if it's on, it's going to make your mission much more difficult because now there's something unexpected that arrives during that mission, and you have one of your guys in the field that was infiltrating the smugglers, and now you might have a chance to save him or not. And definitely, if the storm is in, it's much more difficult because your line of sight is very much reduced. So yes, it's going to have some sort of impact, and depending if the people live or not and what you did, will have also other ramifications later in the game.
And also as well, in the rest of the game, like you saw in Prague, there's shots with, it's raining and it's at night, and there's some shots during the day. It's on a dynamic cycle, right? It's actually, it's scripted with, what time you go do that mission. I mean, you go do a certain mission, there's a certain time of day with a certain, weather happening and whatnot. And the reason why we do this is, it wouldn't make sense in a game like Deus Ex to have a real-time day and night cycle, because if you look at the time that you're walking and doing your mission and whatever, it would just feel weird that in this amount of time suddenly the sun is setting, and then 15 minutes later the sun is rising. Because like in an open world game, even though obviously time is shrunk, it kind of fits with the whole philosophy of exploring the whole open world and seeing, night arriving and then, the sun rising, blah, blah, blah. But when you're, somebody tells you, oh, you need to infiltrate this police station, blah, 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 and then you start doing this, and then there's like 3 days that pass while you were, hacking in a computer. It just suddenly, it's like, what? It just kind of breaks the suspension of disbelief, yeah.
Right. So it's an immersion thing.
It's an immersion thing, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Hi,
Hi.
What's your name?
Matthew.
Matthew, it's
Hey,
nice
Matthew.
to meet you. Thank you
Matthew.
for
Nice to
coming.
meet you all too. First, I want to say that even though we didn't ask for Human Revolution, I think we were all very happy to have it.
Where's this joke
you.
coming
Thank
from?
you
I don't get it.
Thank
No,
you.
but those are some of the best comments we can get. Like people that were like, don't touch this, it's so sacred, and we didn't think that it would work, and then you guys are like, yeah, it actually did
I have
work.
to say it's one of the best narratives I've ever played
Awesome.
in a game that wasn't just point and click.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
pass it to Marie Damarle, which is the lead writer on this franchise. Thank you.
So my question is sort of twofold. There's a lot of PC games that have come under fire lately. One that does also involve crawling through vents a lot, and Witcher 3. And I wanted to sort of ask if you all had any special plans to treat the PC gaming community well in that respect.
Yeah.
Those of us who have $1,000 rigs
Yes.
look forward to eye candy like this.
Actually, it's like Human Revolution. We see it on two angles. Sorry. The first angle is that we don't want to do a console port on PC. Like to me, that is disrespectful. And
Thank you.
There's a legacy to Deus Ex, right, that we need to respect.
and for us, like, our philosophy is that no matter where you put your money, we want you to feel at home. So definitely we'll do things for the PC that feels right for the PC.
The Game Boy Color version is insane.
You can crank the black and gold like to 11.
Yeah, there's just black and gold. Yeah.
But we're going to do other things that I'm not going to discuss today because eventually we'll have an angle of communication on the PC version. But definitely, it's super important that the PC version is treated as a PC version.
That it plays like one.
Yes, and you shouldn't be disappointed. Well, hopefully.
Thank you. And the other part of my question related to sort of the delivery of the promise there. You mentioned that the run and gun sort of approach would get revamped.
Yeah.
When when Human Revolution first came out, the boss battles were, everybody knows they were largely not stealthy. And then when the director's cut came out, they were completely overhauled.
Yeah.
Is there going to be another two-step version of boss battles? Or
It's such a great plan. I don't know why we
Yeah.
would do otherwise.
What was wrong with
would we
them?
do?
I don't know. It was a two-tiered plan.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly.
I guess you sort of already answered that in the first half. But
Yeah, but this time around, yes, you should be less stressed about
You can
the
really,
bus experience.
You can really play the game without killing
Yes.
anybody.
This time we
you better
mean
believe I got the pacifist achievement.
it. We mean it.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Hello there, folks. I also happen to be named Matthew. Yeah.
Hi, Matthew.
First things first, great job. Love it. Looks beautiful.
Thanks.
The art in Human Revolution is a really big inspiration for my own work. And I have a few questions for the art director. So in Human Revolution, a lot of the fashion and architecture was sort of based on stuff from the Renaissance. And I was wondering how that sort of direction in Mankind Divided is going to be like. And I also have a little side question. What type of stuff was you and your team looking at in terms of reference and inspiration over the course of the development of this game?
So your first question is, what's kind of like the new, what's replacing kind of the cyber renaissance in this game
Yes.
type of thing? Yeah. So like a lot of what we're saying, the world has made a 180 degree, right? It's kind of the main thing of the game. If Human Revolution was all about celebrating the augmentations or celebrating transhuman philosophies and technologies, in this one, it's about being scared of them. So obviously, having the cyber renaissance as present as in Human Revolution wouldn't make any sense, right? Because the cyber renaissance was all about this, the celebrating of it. So that's kind of out of the window. But whenever you have augmented people that are grouped together, like in the ghettos and all that kind of stuff, the cyber renaissance has a tendency to come back, right? So the black and gold comes back, and the fashion comes back. And it's not that they start painting everything yellow and they light candles everywhere, right? It's a metaphor, obviously. But what this game has for itself, it's again what we call the corporate feudalism, which is in direct opposition to the cyber renaissance. Like I said, it's the stepping back into the dark ages. It's almost as if once we discovered all the great knowledge of the Renaissance, or rediscovered it, because that's why it's called the Renaissance. That's what it was all about, was rediscovering the knowledge of antiquity that we had forgotten during the Dark Ages. So it's almost as if we're saying, when humanity did this, we got scared of it, and we said, let's go back to the Dark Ages. So we're kind of using this as the analogy for the game, visually speaking. And that's why if you look at the soldiers, if you look at the cops, if you look at different factions, the armorers are based on kind of, knights' armor. You can see like the big visors and stuff like that. They're a lot less kind of svelte than the Renaissance-inspired ones were in Human Revolution. The architecture, again, looks a lot more like fortresses and, raw material like wood and concrete and all that kind of stuff. So that's the main difference, I think. And your second question is, where do we get kind of like our inspirations and all that kind of stuff, right? We're all a lot of the artists are big fans and buff of really looking at fashion, looking at industrial design, mechanical design, interior decoration, architecture. As an art director, I actually don't like looking at other entertainment products as references, like movies or other games or whatnot. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't like them. I actually love them. I just find that when you're creating something in the same realms of that, if you look at that too much, it's kind of self-referencing, right? It's kind of just looking at yourself in the mirror. So, like I've always said, if you want to invent a new cup, go look at how a plumber works, or go look at how an airport is done. And as crazy as it sounds, it's where you're going to get really new ideas, right? Because if you look at how other people make cups, you're just going to make the same cup, right? I know it sounds a little cuckoo, but there's a real thing behind that. So it's a lot of how we work, and that's how we got the whole cyber renaissance thing in the beginning, right? We saw Da Vinci's anatomical sketches, and then we were studying transhumanism at the time, and we just saw kind of a big link between them, and we just built upon that, and this crazy world started happening. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next.
So we got 10 minutes?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left, so we probably have time for 2, maybe 3 more questions. So one angle on your
One
question,
fold.
please.
Absolutely. My name is also Elias, and I'm from
Nice,
South
good
Texas. And just a quick remark about Matthew's remark about getting the pacifist run. One of my minor gripes with Human Revolution was that there was no way to tell how many people you killed during the game. So the only way you could find out if you did the pacifist run is at the very end, and it's a very long game, very complex.
My fingers were very tightly crossed through that entire thing.
Especially during the Frida Malik. I guess everyone here has played Human Revolution, but that point where you can save her, the robot exploding killed people, I don't know how many times. But when I was watching the gameplay, I was initially concerned seeing a waypoint to where you could run by pressing a button to another one while in stealth mode and in combat, and all the new toys you were giving, and that's fun. But in Human Revolution, doing a pacifist run, you didn't really need any upgrades to do that besides getting more batteries for your arms or such. But I'm wondering how you balance the gameplay for someone who would do a pacifist run if they don't use all the toys you give them.
Well, it's we're trying to balance the game for we don't want to have a bias for stealth nor for combat. We want it to be the game that you play the way you want to play it, and it should be rewarding and satisfying on its own. So We're trying this time around to, I think Human Revolution, to be honest with you, it was a little bit too punishing. In the sense that the way we balanced it, it felt more like the game wanted you to play stealth. But it was not our intention at all. It's just us that the way our logic was not in sync with the logic of the players, because our logic was giving more XP points to stealthy players because they were making the effort, and it takes more time, it takes more patience, it takes more investment. So it makes sense from that point. But from a player perspective, you're trying to max out your possibilities, and therefore when you discover that you get more XP points there, then you just go stealth because you think that the game wants you to play this way. And this time around, we're going to balance it in a much more even way. So no matter what path you choose, it should feel right. And for things like pacifist, like for you said the achievement and everything, and how you get that. Well, if there's collateral damage, like you were talking with the robot and kill the third and the chopper or whatever, like it's part of the design. Like it happened this way, so you had to be careful. But ultimately, it's about you. If you want to go into this kind of achievement, it's quite hardcore and it's quite demanding. So my take on it is like be cautious and be really on top of your game, and you'll achieve it. So yeah,
put your karate suit on.
Yeah, and the fact that also that sorry, that we don't want to force players to use augmentations either. Even though they are part of the experience, they're stars of the show, and the game, it's much more fun when you use them. If you're the kind of player who says, you know what, I'm staying with the minimum and I'm giving myself a challenge or something like that, it's all good. But to me, it's not something I want to reinforce through game mechanics that forces players into these things. Like, it's important that we keep a lot of flexibility because all players are not all alike and everything. And I want to make sure that the game is able to fulfill the fantasy for every one of you.
Merci.
Thank you. Merci.
Yes, sir.
How's it going, guys? My name's
Good,
Sebastian.
Hi, Sebastian.
Hi. I was wondering if you could go into how the addition of DirectX 12 into the Dawn engine has affected the development of Mankind Divided.
Your question is very interesting, but there will be a week where we're going to talk about those things, and this week is not today.
Oh, okay. Can you say what you personally, as a developer, are most excited about, or with that?
Well, there's stuff that we've said about the DirectX and stuff, like the tress effect for the hair.
For the hair, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There are
It's
things
really,
that we've mentioned, but yeah, there is a big week for that.
And me, to be honest, like I focus more on the game experience than the pixels on screen. He's taking care of the pixels.
I'm the one who orders the pixels.
Okay.
Every Monday, I look at how much pixels we spent the previous week. I need.
Your job sounds great.
Yeah, I look at we're running out of yellow pixels, and I make all of that.
It's the pixel manager.
And the pixel manager, director.
Wow, I never knew that a development studio was a lot like going into the Lego store.
But jokes apart, be patient because we're going to talk more about PC soon. So
Okay.
yes.
All right. Good. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Stefan. I'll just make this quick. I just want to say it's cool to see Adam Jensen's voice actor right here in the flesh.
Thanks.
So yeah, yeah, just amazing to me. And so my question is, I like how in this game that like it looks like Adam Jensen is literally like turning into like a walking weapon. I see like he can launch the
He could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily,
You can launch
yeah.
the, what do you call it, the blades, and I see like the electric darts that see. I just want to know, like, how do you guys like go by the design process? Like how, how do you make like the internal weapons that Adam Jensen has? Like what do you got? How do you guys like, brainstorm them?
Like visually or gameplay or both?
Yeah, or both, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's coming up with the augmentation is actually harder than it sounds. It's because you would think, oh, come on, let's just sit down and just come up with all sorts of cool little gadgets and things. And it's always tough because making them happen, right, and making them come alive in the game and balancing them. And I mean, you got to make sure that every one of these augmentations actually have a real purpose, right? It's not just because we thought it was just pure cool, right? It has to be beyond that. I think that's the real hard part. Like visually after that,
It's challenging.
it's
too,
artists having
because,
fun.
Yeah, but it's challenging too, like the nano blade, like trying to come up with something original in which it's the way it's going to unfold, and it's not just like
Yeah,
a
there's a whole
blade coming out
Of
literally.
course.
Yeah.
There's a whole kind of manufacturing process of we're trying to really design things as they would be in real life, right? Really trying to
Yeah.
understand the processes of how things function and how things are built and how they're manufactured and things like that. And if you kind of understand these principles, it kind of helps you in designing these type of things. And then, of course, understanding fashion design for the rest of the garments and stuff.
And
Yeah,
like
and we got better at it as well, right? Since Human Revolution.
And like also the other aspect that is a little bit complex is that we're trying to come up with ideas, like John said, that are going to make sense throughout the experience and everything. But also we want to have a credible scientific foundations to them. Like we don't just want them to be cuckoo coming out of nowhere. So we
Like
also
blades coming out of arms.
yeah. But we work with some people in the transhumanist field, so they can give us a lot of insights and a lot of explanation from the scientific field for the technobabble and make sure that it's credible. Like, doesn't mean that what we have in the game it's happening today,
No,
but the scientific foundations are already existing, and it's not too far-fetched to think that tomorrow some of those things can really happen.
And it's crazy. There's stuff in Human Revolution that we designed or we invented just for the fun and for the game, and they started happening in real life not too long after, right? So that was crazy.
All right.
Thank you.
We have 1
Thank you.
minute left. Is your question very, very quick? Like the quickest question you can think of?
First of all, thank you for being here. My name's John. I wanted
Hi,
to
John.
expand
Hi, John.
on Matthew's question earlier. So given that this takes place years before the very first game, this gave you kind of an opportunity to kind of redo the story. Did y'all know you were going to make this sequel years ago? Like, I'm interested in the growth of the...
Well, to be honest, when we did Human Revolution, it was a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and all the eyes of the world were looking at us, and people were saying, don't fuck this up.
Waiting for us to fail.
So, I'll be honest, like, Mankind Divided was the least of my concern. It was like, we were like, if we survive this one, then we'll see what we do next. And actually, when Human Revolution shipped, we didn't start to work on the next one like right away. We took a vacation. We just drag our lazy asses at the office and doing nothing. And
then we came back from vacation about a month ago, and we started Mankind Divided.
Yeah, we didn't have much time this time.
It's almost done.
But no, it was like we didn't think about it. Like
That was good. We were just swearing like crazy.
I didn't know that there were kids here.
You monster. So thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you,
coming
man.
out.
Sorry, Snake.
Unfortunately, our time is up. You guys have been great. Thank you guys so much.